And then he said, you know, it was blue. And we laughed. You're not funny. Oh, I know I'm a bit villainous, but there's one thing I cannot stand. It's people that leave their rubbish. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to pick this up and I'm just going to put it in the... What do you think you're doing? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't know you there. I didn't recognize you there. I don't even know who you are. Well, I'm the goddess of death. What did you say you're the god of again? I am Thanos, and I am going to collect the Infinity Stones, all 6 of them, in order to gather them together in the Infinity Gauntlet and wipe out half of all organic life in the universe. Wow. Now that seems like a task and a half, and I should know, because I'm the taskmaster, I'm the taskmaster, I'm the master of tasks. I'm the taskmaster, I'm the taskmaster, I'm the master of tasks. Terribly sorry. What's your story? What's your story, Tin Can? I am not a tin can. Well, you kind of look like a tin can. I'm terribly sorry. I am lost a little bit. When I woke up, everything was dark, and now everything is bright. And I must bring on my age of Ultron. This day extracts a heavy toll on my patience. Well, I mean, if I went about without a face, then, you know, I would be quite annoyed as well. What do you mean? No face. Of course I have a face, it's hidden. Well, you kind of look like a Dalek. And when you don't look like a Dalek, you look like you're wearing a corset. I'm carrying a little bit of holiday weight. It's October. Still. Huh. I've had enough. I'm off to get the rest of the Infinity Stones. Any of you coming with me? Oh no, we'll be in our own domain. You had enough? I've definitely had enough. Where are you going? Nowhere. I was first exposed to Disney Villainous back in 2019, where I sat down with John and Steve from Polyhedron Collider, and with their partners we played the original green box Disney Villainous, which I think I lost, but it was very, very close. I was either second last or last, but that's not how it works anyway. I remember walking away from that game being pleasantly surprised, because if one thing that I have said again and again, when it comes to famous IPs, I always approach them with a certain bit of trepidation and concern, because sometimes it's easier to slap a badge on the front of a box and some graphics and just let those people who will always buy things with things slapped on the front of them, let them go ahead and buy them. But I'm pleased to report back that in terms of Marvel Villainous from Ravensburger, that they have turned out something which is quite impressive, to be perfectly honest. But let me tell you kind of what I like, and let me give you some ideas about things that I kind of raise some kind of concerns to me. In general, I like games that are quite competitive. I've always not liked games which claim to be competitive but have a lack of player interaction. There can be a lot of Euro games, as we know, are all about kind of setting up your own little tableau of stuff, and then at the end to lay down and slap down all the points and claim victory and walk away with the spoils of knowing that you can do long division in your head. And Villainous in this way is all about having your own domain. In fact, that's what they call it. They actually call it a domain. And your idea is that you will be given basically a main aim that you have to fulfill. Now, obviously, in the case of Corset Boy here, because he looks like a Dalek. There's no getting it. That is a Dalek. It just looks like a Dalek. I can't, every time I look at it, it looks like an eye with a Dalek or some kind of fancy corset. It's not, you know, I can't get over it. But they've got to claim the Infinity Stones, which is pretty obviously. Hela has got to collect soul tokens. Killmonger has basically got to secure the Vibranium mines. Taskmaster has got to recruit a number of recruits to their cause, and Ultron, surprisingly enough, has got to save Geppetto from the whale. Who knew? No, he's got to bring the Age of Ultron on. But you all have your own task, and so you're concentrating on your own task and your own tableau, and at the same time you've got your deck to play, which will be playing allies, which will be playing out into the bottom of the board, and then on top of that you'll have the ability to play kind of fate cards. Now fate cards are the way that you make things difficult for the other players in the game, because they can bring in kind of enemies or allies. Because you're playing bad guys, they bring in usually good guys, but they could also bring in other bad guys depending on how you want to good guy or bad guy, and that will effectively cover up your part of your tableau. In many ways what you're doing on a round is you're selecting, like my little side or something like that. You're selecting an area where you're going to place your piece, and then you're going to be able to play as many of those actions as you can in that particular space. If somebody comes in, they've got the ability to block off essentially half of your actions in that particular space. I like that. I like the element of people planning stuff and having long-term plans, and then all of a sudden somebody coming in with like a, you know, with a fate card and just slapping that down and stopping that person from being able to build up that plans and build up that momentum. You got to make sure that you're keeping it balanced. So if you're on 3 or 4 players, you don't want to make sure that you're always picking on the same player, because that can lead to people feeling it's kind of unfair. But at the same time, that is how the game, you're encouraged, it's villainous, you're encouraged to be villainous, you're encouraged to be evil, you're encouraged to scheme, you're encouraged to purchase a top hat and a twiddly moustache at the same time. So that is obviously very, very enjoyable. While it looks quite complicated, playing the games itself is kind of fairly easy and standard. You'll pop your token on an area, you'll play the actions, you'll bring in cards, you'll bring in allies, you'll defeat enemies, you'll aim towards trying to get your overall goal kind of fulfilled, and that'll be it. With Marvel Villainous, and the difference between Marvel Villainous and maybe Disney Villainous is, I would say that they have kind of upped the ante in terms of the trickiness of the game, the mechanics that you've got to take into consideration, especially for old Goldenrod himself. It's kind of like a hard C3PO, you know, if C3PO had hung around with the more tougher R2-D2 units, and they've got kind of like their Infinity Stones, and they've got to bring in the Infinity Stones, whereas Age of Ultron, and for Ultron they've got to bring in the Age of Ultron, so that means they've got to bring in the various Ages of Ultron in. Taskmaster's got to recruit people, so there's kind of various degrees. In some cases some are more complicated than others. I personally would kind of maybe keep Thanos to one side until you're kind of more familiar with the mechanics. If you've played the other Villainous games before, something as complicated as like maybe the Thanos edition or the Ultron edition or even the Taskmaster edition will be welcome to you, especially for a group that's played the game before. They will welcome this. This is almost like a completely kind of different expansion and upgrade to the game, and people are going to be able to dive in and enjoy it. The presentation and the production on this is lovely. It's nice, it's wonderful, it's very striking. The mood, the individual graphics are fantastic, the illustrations are fantastic, the card art itself kind of does, you know, repeat itself, but it's very, very striking indeed. I do kind of like it. I wouldn't necessarily play this with younger players. Disney Villainous would be something The original was certainly suitable for younger players to bring on who had a reasonable kind of reading age, and with a little help they could have defined their own strategies. There's certainly kind of more complicated strategies involved in this version of Villainous, which might frustrate slightly younger players. It'll certainly delight kind of older players who are looking for something to kind of get their crunch on and get their meat on, and certainly people who are interested in a kind of a take that kind of look on things are going to really like this game. Surprisingly enough, things kind of change when you bring Thanos in. In some places, it would be not unknown for people to focus on Thanos as the kind of the main person to kind of take. After all, they, you know, once they have got all the Infinity Stones, they are going to bring the game to an end. And since the Infinity Stones are kind of spread out far and wide amongst the players based on the cards that are played, it's natural for people to want to try to take them out as a group thing. And I'd be interested to see how that kind of plays out, because it's the first time I've seen, you know, somebody like this kind of being brought in, even in the kind of the previous kind of iterations. It takes probably about an hour to an hour and a half to play, depending on the number of players. The rounds can go very quickly, because even there's not really any kind of downtime. And what I mean by that is you will always be thinking about kind of what's going to be planning on your tableau, and sometimes you need to react to what has happened to your tableau if a fake card has been played into your space by one of the other players, which has drastically cut down the actions that you can have. Yes, so if you haven't played any of the Villainous games, I would certainly jump into this. If you're after something that you want to get your teeth into, then it's a surprising, it's not just a couple of labels and a couple of badly designed rules. This is something which I've been very impressed with. Everything from opening the box to learning it. The rule book itself is very easy to understand, and there's lovely kind of aide-de-memoirs. You've got your kind of your individual kind of reminders on what you've meant to be doing for each of the villains in order to stop them, but also each of the individual villains themselves. You've got your own kind of little sheet here which will tell you what you have to achieve in order for you to win. That's really good to me, because you want everybody focusing on the table. You don't want anybody kind of stopping the game just to kind of like, oh, I've got to read this. They'll be able to check that as often as they want in order to play. So that is Marvel Villainous by Ravensburger. It is available in retail. My name's Richard. Don't know why I said it like that. No idea. This is We're Not Wizards. Remember, stay safe, roll sixes, make something awful, and all that for a little drop of blood.